Alright, I'm Mary Morrow from St. Clair County High School.
I'm Lori Miller from St. Clair County High School,
And I'm Jenny Carden from Asheville Middle School.
and we are here with Mr. Wayne Trucks, who's our curriculum director.
Okay,
So thank you very much for being here.
you're very welcome.
Okay, I'll start. How do you lead and motivate teachers to adhere to the state standards?
Am I speaking as a building principal, assistant principal, administrator, teacher leader, which?
As the
which
instruction,
avenue
as
do you
the
want?
curriculum
All right.
coordinator.
As the curriculum instruction coordinator, then I work basically with principals to help principals help teachers, okay? And if we're talking about leading and motivating, the things that you would need to write down is the idea that the state curriculum is required, okay? That's gonna be the easiest thing. And so the situation a bit of, hey, regardless of what you think, regardless of what your opinions are, this is what's required by the state of Alabama for our public education system. If you're really talking about motivating teachers, though, I would argue that you really need to model. Okay, if you remember from this summer when I introduced the new unit lesson plan, okay? All right, what I tried to do is meet with folks in each zone to introduce the new unit plan, because it's the idea of, instead of just, hey, here you go, it's the bit of, okay, let's walk through it. And then when we met with high school folks the day before classes started, right? Okay, so which is a perfect time for once again going through it. And if y'all remember back then, I gave everybody a blank one instead of a completed one, and then we tried to complete it. Because y'all know, just like working with students, if I give you an example, you want the completed one so you can just copy it and then you're done, okay? So with the blank one, people are actually having to work through. With the leadership and the motivation is the idea of the modeling of, okay, let's make this work for you. Instead of, hey, here, do this because I said so. Can this help you? What is it that you need to do? What questions do you have? And really make the people struggle, okay?
Okay.
All right, because think about it from, the math, Spanish, and art, okay? The kids that get it, you don't really spend that much time with because you know that they get it.
Yeah.
It's the kids that struggle, and you've got to be able to pat them on the back of, hey, you can do this. Because remember last week, we struggled with fractions or adding exponents. And if you could do through that, then you could do it. Or hey, you couldn't color through the, inside the lines when we first started, now you go. You couldn't conjugate a single verb in the present tense, and now you're able to do AR verbs and ER verbs, but you're not ready for stem changing verbs just yet. So it's trying to give those examples, all right? Because if you're trying to motivate and lead any group, okay, you gotta treat them like they don't know anything. And you gotta allow them an opportunity to struggle and an opportunity to be successful. So what I've tried to do is teach teachers just like I taught students, okay? Is the bit of, hey, I really wanna know what you're thinking. So that, and the best question is why, okay? Why are we doing this, okay? Because the daily lesson plans are the same ones that you've had for 15 years and you don't even look at them, or you just turn them in and the principals know and they don't look at them, and that just doesn't serve a purpose.
I enjoy the new lesson plan.
I hope so. Thank
I
you.
struggled at the beginning,
Absolutely.
but I enjoy it now.
Because it's new and it's different.
I
And who's that
enjoy
guy in the bow tie that keeps creating more work for me, okay? But when we get to, it won't get into this, but I can use this next example. If you think about the acronym ICE, okay, which is part of the new unit plan with the idea of images, conversations, and experiences. And it's something that you already do and have already been doing. It's just kind of more categorized, okay? Because if you think about math, hey, remember when we were doing graphs? Okay, graphs, I know what a graph looks like, okay? If you're talking about a stem change, shoe verb, okay, I get it. Art is all about images, okay? And then the conversations tell me what you know. Well, I don't know. Okay, great. Then tell me what you don't know. Well, I don't know. Okay, here you go. And that's a struggle, okay? Because as teachers, we want to get through the lesson just as quickly as the kids do, okay? And then with the experiences, if we're relying on stuff that we've done before, okay, that they've had some success with, okay, then I think it's much easier to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish.
Thank you.
Question, okay? All right?
Okay, what tools do you use to assess, identify, and support instructional improvement?
All right, when we're talking about specific tools, if we're talking about assessment, identification, and support, I really think you gotta look at the data, okay? Now, the challenge with that is what do you look at, okay? So, math, you've got it. You've got test scores, you've got state assessments, that type of stuff. All right, good luck.
We know one of the art, yes.
Okay, I mean, but it's a
Right.
bit, and I've talked about it with Miss Bishop
Mhm.
at Moody. If we talk about the state superintendent's submissions, okay, that were judged, evaluated, judged, okay, by the folks at 410 Roy Drive, okay? All right. It's a different audience at 410 Roy Drive, and Ms. Bishop had some questions about one of the works that I found interesting, that many people may or may not have found disturbing. And she was really good about it. It's like, hey, what did the people say about this? I said, well, they didn't say a whole lot. It's like, okay, so they didn't understand it. I said, nope, they sure did not, okay? So the data would be much more effective, okay, if you're talking about prior knowledge or previous performance on tests, and then some kids will be able to read and write well, and some will be able to speak well. But it's gonna be different for each kid, okay, to try and identify areas where they struggle. Student feedback, I think, is gonna be, you know, an important factor to use of, hey, I just don't get that, but that, once again, is a level of trust. And it's also good to ask teachers that as well, of, hey, where is it that you struggle, okay? A lot of times the kids are taking Spanish because they want the advanced diploma. They have no interest in Spanish. Their version of Spanish is whatever they've heard on Taco Bell commercials, okay? With the Yo Quiero Taco Bell, all right? And then you might get the comment from time to time, I don't speak Mexican,
Yes.
okay? And it's very discouraging, okay? But it's the bit of, you've got to figure out where that kid is and why they're having to take it, okay? Art 1 is awful, okay? Because you got kids where it doesn't fit in their schedule, and that's the reason why they're Art 1, right? Your Art 2 kids, hey, go,
But that's
flourish.
the, what is the beginning of something
You're
great.
more optimistic
Oh,
and
yes.
idealistic than I am.
Yes.
Because I had to have 150 kids taking Art 1, and maybe 40 wanted to take it. But we had to,
That makes
we
me
had to
sad.
find, we had to find a
Mhm.
place for it. The smart kids took photography because they knew that that would be better, because our art teacher was really good with the Art 2s, 3s, and 4s, and did not really have much patience for the Art 1s, okay? Well, good. Great. So what tools do you to assess and support instructional improvement with your Art 1s?
I do a lot of formal
Okay.
assessment, like on a day-to-day basis. Like
Okay.
today, we did Japanese ink painting.
Okay,
So I'm showing them the techniques, and I'm going one-on-one, making sure they've got the techniques, and if they have questions. And I think we do have a level of trust in my room, where they'll ask me,
sure.
like, hey, can you help me do this?
Yeah.
Or, I don't like this, so then we'll get into, well, what do you not like about it?
Right.
So we can make it what you want it to be.
Right.
So I do a lot of that. My assessment is more like on the spot, right then, conversation,
Very good.
watching.
You're going back to the conversation bit, because that's, you know, hey, do you understand, hey, do you understand? Because if we're waiting until the assessment, the test,
Mhm.
or a quiz, then it's too late to figure out what they know, because we're really finding out what they don't know. State assessments are gonna be big, particularly at the elementary level. At the high school level, you know, of course, we're using pre-ACT and ACT, but if we're using pre-ACT and ACT, by that time, it's really too late, okay? So what we're trying to do is figure out a way to create more time during the day, which is one of the motivations behind the advisory period, is particularly with students that will need help with, say, the ACT work keys, okay? So providing them more opportunities for practice during the day, because, you know, we basically have the kids from 7:50 to 2:50. We're not gonna get a whole lot of kids early, and we're sure as heck aren't gonna get a whole lot of kids staying late. So with the schedule of trying to figure out where they are, so that we can provide more opportunities, particularly with proficiency, because that's gonna be important for the workplace, okay? So data on state assessments, Lexia scores, that type of stuff, more data driven at the elementary level up until about 8th grade, because really your standardized tests or assessments, you know, with the pre-ACT and ACT at the high school level, just kind of measures the overall general knowledge of the student, not necessarily any type of skill or standard or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. How does the use of technology in the classroom impact or has impacted the school's district
Right.
curriculum?
What do y'all think?
Well, the one-to-one is,
Go
He's
ahead.
an
making us
interesting
struggle.
challenge.
He's
Okay.
making us struggle.
No, I'm making you struggle because I want you to be honest with me.
it's an interesting challenge.
Okay, what is it really besides just trying to be nice and saying it's an interesting challenge?
Now, I love it. this is my second year here. I've always had one-to-one for a while, and I got very used to that.
But we don't have one-to-one here.
Okay.
You can look at the camera and be honest, because we don't have one-to-one. We have the access,
Mhm.
but we don't have one-to-one.
Okay,
All right, so we have the opportunity to have it, okay? But we don't really have a one-to-one because the kids aren't walking around with it.
okay,
And we don't have teachers that are comfortable with it,
okay.
okay? Because the difficulty of the transition of, hey, it's not added until October, November, or something like that, is trying to find professional development opportunities so that the teachers are comfortable, okay? Because if we're honest about it, if the teacher's not comfortable with it, then they're not gonna require it from the kids, okay? Unless they are required, which goes back to the first question of the, hey, this is required and here you go, okay? So when we think about a one-to-one approach in Spanish, okay, you have a lot more of the visual options already with the textbook, okay? To where it's a conversation pattern and you've got the dialogue so that the kids can work on vocabulary, tense, and things like that. So there's already that visual element, okay? If we send kids off into the math world and, okay, go to Khan Academy and good luck and see how it does, okay, then that approach doesn't really work with the bit of, teacher self, okay? With art, of course, the introduction of, hey, here you go, what is it, inspire you to do, what does it do? Photoshop is wonderful.
Yes, and it got us the
Okay.
licenses this year,
Okay.
which is big.
You're welcome.
So thank you.
And so it's the bit there that you can do different things with different folks. If it becomes a course that is computer-based and computer-driven, and the teacher is more the facilitator or the moderator, that's all fine and good, but then all we're really doing is we're clicking until completion, okay? And not necessarily proving understanding or mastery of the subject, and that's one of the challenges. So I think the main challenge of the technology is it's still used to enhance, okay? But until the teachers are comfortable with it, we really aren't gonna get very much out of it, okay? And I'll be honest with you, okay? I didn't mind, kids using laptops and stuff, particularly if it allowed them to take notes, and I would do a lot with editorial cartoons, and so it's like, okay, get your laptop, here you go, I posted on a, blog, and then some systems use Moodle, and then I came from a Google Classroom bit to where I could put it there, and then it was the bit of providing kids the opportunities to use computers during the day, but it wasn't a true, one-to-one of, you're gonna use it every class period, every time, okay? Because if it's just replacing the textbook, then that's a different approach. If it's actually being used as an instructional tool, it takes an awful lot of talent and an awful lot of PD, I would argue, on the teacher side, okay? And then, I had some teachers that would use Mobies for their math class, particularly pre-cal or the unit circle, okay? All right, so it's the idea of the image, and then could go through the process on the Mobi, okay, to where it's the idea of, okay, it's the visual bit, and then kids can do it themselves, okay? But I would still argue that it's gonna rely on the confidence and competence of the teacher in order to make that one-to-one initiative truly successful, okay? Technology is another wonderful tool that we can use, okay? Some of us grew up with what they called encyclopedias, okay? And then the teacher was the main source of information, okay? And then now, if you're just talking about content, that's what Google's for, okay? But if we're talking about skill development, it's still, I think, that partnership between teacher and student, regardless of the tool that they use, is the one that talks about skill development as opposed to content, okay? Because the kids can teach themselves, whatever. My boy is in 9th grade, and they have laptops at school, and he might use it to take notes, or the teacher's uploaded the PowerPoint, so here you go, and it's a Quizlet, okay? It's just like the index cards that we used to have 100 years ago. You had one word, and then you had the definition on the other, and that's how you did it. So it's just a different presentation, but I don't really think that teaching in some subjects has really changed greatly due to technology. It's just, access to more information more quickly, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they learn more, okay? And y'all learn that with your graduate class.
Yes.
You can copy and paste for the best of it. Fair.
But not for this class.
Not for this
Not for
class.
this
Absolutely
class.
not.
But perhaps for some of the others. Well, if you think about, have y'all had to take a law class or anything like that? Okay, So with the law class, what you're doing is you basically Google the case and you find the shortest summary that makes sense, okay? And then they've got some sites that give you a 10-page breakdown of the case, and then they've got a paragraph, this is what it's about, and here you go. So you've just got access to the content, but how you use it is kind